We also had the release of the Unreality of Pro Wrestling redo, the Unreality of Pro Wrestling Vengeance, the Unreality of Pro Wrestling Royale, and the Unreality of Pro Wrestling Ultimax. And just want to say thanks to everyone for the response on that. I was really stressed putting that video out. I was like, are people going to be receptive to what is basically a redo of a video? And it was really cool seeing people happy about
Great
it.
video, boss. I love to have emotions about wrestling, a thing I do not watch or follow in any capacity except for when you do a video about it. Off to read Shield fanfic now.
Jules, I am happy to be of service. Thank you, buddy. Thank you for the 19-month subscription. But yeah, it felt really good to it felt really good to actually finally have that video out. I won't reiterate the whole thing, but getting the video, like finishing the video was like half the problem, and then actually like getting it out and getting it past copyright has been a month-long nightmare. That was so stressful, and it was like, I hope I can actually release this thing to people that, I've put so much goddamn work into at this point. And it was crazy. It was really wild. In a crazy update, the video is now out, but it's also actually monetized. So it seems like I might get paid for it. I don't know if that's certain or not, but I just did want to mention that because I know in the video I said, like, it's not, there's no way it's going to be monetized. That's my experience with every other wrestling video I've ever done. It seems this one I actually might get paid for, which is fucking crazy to think about. But also just want to say thank you so much to everyone who, like, bought t-shirts, joined the Patreon, and just, is subscribing for the Twitch, because it really helps smooth out the wild ride that is making money on the internet. I acknowledge you. I'm joining the Patreon. Thank you, Manar105.
Thanks for the video. I haven't sat down to watch it yet, but I can't wait to have another video to watch with a beer and a cozy evening with my girlfriend, and I look forward to falling asleep to it 50 plus times in a couple of years.
Kreutzer, thank you so much. I really hope you enjoyed the video, buddy. I hope you and your girlfriend both enjoy it. And Godspeed on the falling asleep to it in 50 plus years. There was a point where I was making that video and I was like, this video is so long. This is going to be like prime super Eyepatch Wolf fall asleep to material. I know that's what people are going to use this video for. And hey, look, I got no issue with it. I get it. That's exactly what I did when I saw it. There's something really funny about, like, I put so much time and energy into those videos. And, like, chat, like, I watch them over and over and over and over and over. And, like, I'm like, oh, this bit's a bit too fucking long. And then sometimes, you know what I lose my mind over? Do you know what I will actually mentally tear myself apart over? Sometimes when you're cutting clips together, for a moment on screen, there flashes like a frame from another clip that you just didn't catch. So like you're watching like Stone Cold Steve Austin, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Randy Orton, The Rock. And it's like, it's just a flash on screen. And I always see it in other people's videos and I judge the fuck out of them for it. And sometimes I see it in my own videos towards the end and I get so stressed about it. I get so stressed about this stray image being on screen for 1/60th of a second. That's how, like, anal I get about videos towards the end, right? And then I think about that. And then I think about the fact that someone sees the video and is like, oh yeah, a Super Eyepatch Wolf video, time to fall asleep. And it shows me how silly I am about videos. But I don't know. Gotta be silly about something, right? I have caught every single stray frame in this video. I have seen all of them. Hey, there's only 2 Soccer Tetris that I'm aware of. There could be more. But you see, the thing is, I think by getting that anal about it and like by drilling down into it that much, like the only point that you know you have given your all to a piece of art that I am able to recognize is when you start fixing shit that doesn't matter. And I think at some point you have to take a step back from that and be like, okay, it's done. I have clearly reached the precipice of lunacy on this project, and now I just need to move on and work on something else. 2/3 of the video is stray frames. No! Don't say that! But yeah, it genuinely, I really feel like that video has been such a saga, and I really feel that, I feel a monkey is off my back. I feel like I can kind of breathe again, and I'm looking forward to making the next things, which are going to be so different. I finished the second draft of my Void Stranger script today. And I would say before a script goes out, it usually hits about 4 drafts before I'm willing to record it, and way more after that. Like, it's the way I do it is I usually do 4 drafts, and then I watch it back, and then pretty much make the video again. Pretty much just start again, and like, fuck it, let's throw it all out, and because now we know not what not to do. And I am so excited about the Void Stranger video. It's so completely different to the wrestling video. And when I went into it, I genuinely didn't know, like, if you've played Void Stranger, how the fuck do you talk about that game? Like, how do you actually talk about what that game is in a way that will be interesting to people who have never played it? And honestly, I think I found a way. And the only thing is, it's going to be a long one. Yeah, the only thing is, it's like 16 pages, which I think is going to equate to about somewhere between an hour and 15 minutes and an hour and a half. And part of me is like, I don't really want to jump into another mega long video, so I might just sneak in a sneaky little favorite things for the next upload, bang that out in like 3 or 4 weeks, and then dive into this fucking monster Void Stranger video. John, I think it speaks to the quality of the video that my ADHD brain considered forwarding to the old segments, but then I just got engrossed in the minutes of flow. Yes, I think those old sections hold up in that video, and I'm glad you didn't skip it, because I also think that, like, I don't know, like, I'd be curious to get you guys' opinion on this, chat. Like, I feel like the reason I wanted to include those old sections and not just make a new video from the Cody sections is, in that final 30 minutes, when those stories start flowing together, we're able to contrast them, and we're able to see how similar they both are, and then that makes it more heartbreaking when we can see how differently they both handled their past. Like, that was my thinking going into it. And I haven't spent a lot of time looking at, like, the internet, because I don't really do that when a video goes live, because it's just too scary to me. Like, there's just too much feedback, and there's too much people just talking. My sense from, like, the people I know who message me is that kind of paid off. Sometimes I get sometimes after releasing a video, I get a pile of messages, and I appreciate it, but it's also scary. You know, like, this is the moments immediately following a video are, like, always kind of spooky, you know, because you just don't know how people are going to react, and you don't know what kind of sentiment people will have. And even if it's, like, really positive, it's still, like, very overstimulating in a way that, like, I don't feel comfortable with sometimes. Because, like, I've said this so many times on here, but, like, you know, my favorite thing, my fucking favorite thing about my job is just making shit that I think is fun. Like, you know, is just kind of is having a good time writing my scripts and editing the videos together, and then you drop the right piece of music on it, and then the whole thing just fucking comes together, and it feels so good. I genuinely kind of hate having to upload my shit to the internet, and I know that's just kind of how it works, and I know that's how I have everything I have, because, you know, the internet following leads to you guys, and you guys rule, and, you know, it's awesome. But I think I've been doing this for 10 years, nearly 10 years now, And I've kind of viewed like having, I've kind of like now I kind of view having a following sort of with apathy, like just kind of like, you know, people be like, oh, what's it like to have, you know, like 1 point fucking whatever, however many subscribers. And I'm kind of like, it's all right. It's fine. It's definitely like, it has its advantages, like especially just how many fucking, you know, people support me and support the channel. I know I do really, really well off YouTube in a way I never ever would have done otherwise. And like, it's definitely not a lack of appreciation about that. But I think it's just like it's seeing yourself just filtered through like 1,000 different perspectives, and it's seeing so many people develop these individual ideas of who you are and why you do the things you do. That can really start to weigh on you if you let it, you know? And like the problem is like, the problem isn't people being negative. I think, like, I know there's people out there who like don't like me and stuff, but I think for the most part, I'm like a pretty well received YouTuber. I think like the vast majority of my audience is pretty into what I do, and like I've, you know, not that I haven't had drama or weird shit happen over the years, I have, but I think compared to other stuff, it was all stuff where like, oh, something blew up for a couple of days and then kind of, you know, blew over, or like just stuff that in the grand scheme of things didn't seem like that big a deal. I guess I've never like hurt anyone, you know, that kind of way. But the thing is, like, even the good comments get overwhelming. You know, like even the good comments, the positive comments get kind of, they can kind of flood you a little bit. I think what happens a lot of YouTubers, right? I think to be a YouTuber, you need a couple of different things. You have to be like a little bit of an introvert. Not totally, like I think extroverts can be YouTuber as well, but I think it's a very introvert thing to do, to make a video about something you're interested in and then post it to the internet. I think you have to have a certain amount of empathy, but with that, I think you also have to be kind of manipulative in a way. Like I think you have to know how to make people feel things. And like what I would say about my videos is they definitely make people feel things. You know, I don't get a lot of mild opinions on what I do, and I'm not saying that thing is negative, but I'm saying whatever it is about my content, people like to have opinions on it. Or I'm not saying it's positive or negative, I'm just saying people generally come away from my videos with like strong opinions on what I do or what I talk about or how I do it. I think what happens, what I was saying, I think what happens to a lot of YouTubers is like, I also think like when you have that kind of empathetic introvert who's like, you know, very in tune with kind of people's emotions and stuff, or very in tune with like how to make people feel a certain thing, a lot of the times it's people who are a little antisocial. You know, it's a lot of times who people who find interactions with people intense, and so they're comfortable making YouTube videos. You know, they're comfortable doing all this indirect communication with people. And then what happens when those people blow up is that they become completely addicted to the online dopamine and the praise from other people, you know? And my God, I have never received so much pure praise as my first like year, 2 years on YouTube. Because first of all, a lot of people liked what I was doing, you know? But it wasn't just that. There was a lot of people who like saw me as like the underdog. You know, just this little YouTuber with 10,000, 20,000 subscribers, like who just dropped these videos. And I think just going by the comments back then, people felt like they were weird and they were different and they were doing something that was a bit different to what YouTube and anime YouTubers were at the time. And fucking hell, like I remember like just people were so like, holy shit, you know, look at this thing. And I remember on my first video, people telling me like, oh my God, you're gonna be so big, like you're gonna blow the fuck up. And I didn't believe that. I didn't believe that at all. I never ever, like genuinely, this is not being modest, I never ever believed that anything was gonna come of this ever until the point I didn't even turn AdSense on for the first year. You know, that's how much I didn't believe this stuff was going to happen. I think it's easy to get addicted to that, you know, especially like me, like back then, especially, I was coming out of a really bad situation, personally, professionally, a bunch of shit, and I was really insecure, really, really insecure, and I was always having doubts about, like, you know, my relationships, and if, you know, my friends actually liked me, and just, you know, all this fucking shit. What YouTube was like this way to fill all those holes, and all this like love and adoration from like, you know, the people who had started watching my videos, and like all these people who like really began to like champion me and be like, this is the person, you know, I want this person to blow up. I'd be at like parties, you know, I'd be at parties and I'd have my phone out and I'd just be scrolling like my comments, not interacting with anyone around me. I'd just be scrolling my comments and Twitter and like watching videos blow up. And I remember I actually went to a party the night I released The Fall of Bleach. And I remember my friends being like, it's at 10,000 views, it's at 20,000 views. It was like, it was this weird thing. And that's when Sudden Mango, she was there that night, Rebecca. She was like, you know, you're gonna get famous on YouTube. Like you're gonna have like 300,000 followers or something like that. And I remember just thinking, man, Rebecca really doesn't understand how the internet works. That is never, ever going to happen. But I remember that night, like specifically, because like it was getting really hard to stop looking at that stuff. And I remember like I would be at, I'd be like out with mates or whatever, and like whatever conversation was happening, it wasn't stimulating me in the same way that like, as, you know, me opening my phone and seeing like dozens of people like praising me or like, you know, being nice about my work, you know, like human interaction was genuinely less stimulating than the attention I was getting online, because, you know, it couldn't be. A conversation with one person or two people or three people couldn't match this fucking overwhelming level of dopamine. But like it started to become a problem because I started to believe my own hype. You know, I started to believe that I really was this big YouTuber, you know, and I started expecting that praise. And when I started expecting that praise is around the time I hit maybe 80 or 90,000 subscribers on YouTube. And 80 or 90,000 subscribers is this weird, it's this weird threshold on YouTube, because that is the point when people stop viewing you as the little guy. That's the point where people start viewing you as like the institution. And all of a sudden, I found that immediately, like, I became the topic of debate. I became like this thing that was like regularly talked about. I think there was a flashpoint with that. It was from the channel Digibro. That was the name of the channel. Digibro now goes by Trixie, the Golden Witch, and has that like a she's like transitioned and everything, but just say Digibro. I'm not calling them that. I'm just saying that was the name of their channel. But she released a video called just shit talking other anime YouTubers for 19 straight minutes. Oh god, I've destroyed my career. Something like that, you know? And in the anime community at the time, that video was like, I guess what you'd call like a content nuke. It was Trixie just going down the list of every single prominent anime YouTuber and just tearing them apart. And I think like it came from a place of frustration. And later, like I remember watching a video from Trixie later and her saying that this is the only way she knew to like to kind of reach out to people and like to kind of get to know people in a weird way. But so like it wasn't, I don't think it was like meant to be aggressive, but it was very aggressive. And like, you know, she definitely like talked shit about a lot of YouTubers. And I was just kind of sitting there, and I was just sitting there with my arms crossed, and I was like waiting for my turn. I was waiting for like Trixie to just like rip me apart. And she doesn't do that. Right at the end of the video, she's like, oh, and actually, you know who's fucking great? Super Eyepatch Wolf. And it was really flattering. you know, it was very like, I was really surprised because I to this day I still have it. Whenever there's a YouTuber who I think makes good content, I always feel like I bet this person thinks I fucking suck. You know, I'm like, because they're actually good at this, and I still have imposter syndrome. You know, at one point, whatever many million subscribers, I still have imposter syndrome. And like, I was really taken aback by that. But I think at the time, it also like, and I don't think Trixie meant it like this, but what that did then is that really like painted a target on my back. You know, it really led to this scenario where the counterculture of anime YouTube became, I think, to kind of like, I suck, you know, to like be like, Eyepatch Wolf is massively overrated and all this kind of stuff. And the thing is, like, now I think I can kind of handle that a lot better because I get there's just a lot of people who watch my shit and there's like 1,000 different ways it's viewed. I think back then, though, that came at a really like bad intersection where I still had a lot of the ego from that early time, you know? And then all of a sudden there was this kind of wave of smaller creators who fucking just really did not like what I was doing and just would kind of, you know, talk shit on Twitter all day and like would kind of like just kind of, you know, make it out like it was kind of pathetic that I was popular. And that was hard, you know, it became hard coming to terms with the fact that there was just people who like, I don't think they really hated me, but they hated this idea of me and they hated it very intensely and they hated it with an intensity I just never hated anything, you know? You know, that was hard and it was strange to see. I think nowadays, like, my perspective of it has kind of changed because there's a kind of narrative that like went around, and I think it was like this idea that anime YouTube needs to be better. Like, we all need to do better. Remember, like, there was, I think it was called the Critique of Super Eyepatch Wolf's video by Craftsdwarf, I think he's called. The whole idea of this video was kind of like that, like, it was kind of pointing out, like, all the kind of flaws in my video, and it was kind of pointing out how weak my research was and all this kind of stuff, and how, like, I never cited sources and stuff. And I think what hurt about that video was he was kind of right. There was parts of my video that were very strong. Like, they were good at controlling people's emotions. There was strong narratives. But the research and all that kind of stuff, like, there was problems there. And I was kind of having to come to terms with that stuff. And, like, well, like, that video was, like, a really unpleasant experience because, like, someone talking shit about you for an hour and, like, 100,000 people watching it. I don't think people, like, if you've never experienced something like that, you don't know how fucking weird that is. Like, it wasn't, like, a perfect video or anything. I think Craftsdwarf actually kind of, he fell into a lot of the errors he was pointing out in me in that video. And, like, but I mean, like, I understand where he was coming from as well. I actually ended up meeting him once. He, like, it was actually really nice because, like, we just kind of hung out at a con for a little bit. And then, like, you know, it was like, man, this is okay. Like, we don't need to hate each other or anything. And that was kind of chill. So it kind of got to this point, and like, I think where I eventually reached with that stuff is like, for me, I think like if you want YouTube to improve and if you want to see a better YouTube, you can call people out and you can do shit like that. But ultimately, if you really, really want YouTube to be better, the only fucking thing you can do is make better videos. The only thing you can do is make shit where you're like, you can point to it and be like, this is the kind of shit I want to make. This is the kind of video I want to exist on YouTube. I want to raise the bar to this standard. And like, you can't ignore the shit you don't want to do. If you're bad at editing, you have to get better at editing. If you're bad at pacing and structure and all this shit, all that stuff has to be top tier because that is the only way you are going to keep an audience engaged long enough for them to actually accept your message. And if you're bad at that stuff, it doesn't matter how good the internal message of your video is. You have to be able to engage an audience on a wider sphere if you really want YouTube to change. That's kind of where I ultimately landed on a lot of this stuff. But I think then, like, for as tough as that period was, and this was a lesson it took me way too long to make, it made me realize that, like, I did just have to completely separate, like, my ego from YouTube. Like, I had to completely divorce this idea that I was the person I presented on YouTube. And, like, now, like, Super Eyepatch Wolf, that's like a character. And, like, don't get me wrong, everything in those videos are my own thoughts and feelings, but they're my own thoughts and feelings pushed through a rigorous scripting process, contorted and compressed in an even more rigorous editing process, and those processes released over and over and over and over until I can refine all these pieces of myself down into this digestible hour and a half or 2 hour or 2.5 hour video that's consumable and enjoyable. And at that point, there was a huge fucking difference between me and that video. You know what I mean? Like, those aren't the same thing. And I think it was really hard, but, like, learning to separate, like, if someone hates my videos, they don't hate me because, like, they don't know me. Like, they can't know me. Like, someone can't exist in a YouTube video. This is kind of something that I think a lot of people don't understand about YouTube. There's always this idea of authenticity. Who is real, who is not, who's being themselves, who is not. And to me, the moment you turn a camera on and the moment you start talking to your audience, you're not a real person at that point. You're making something. You know, like right now, I'm talking to you guys and I am genuinely trying to be as, like, transparent and honest as I can possibly be with you. Like, this is as, like, honest as I am capable of being, but you gotta understand, like, you're not viewing me in, like, my everyday life. You're not viewing me talking to my wife or my friends or anything. There's some elements of this that's still a performance. You know, like, I have these big fucking lights to make me look pleasant and presentable, you know? I am talking about a lot of stuff, but, like, there's stuff I won't talk about. Like, you know, there's stuff about my history or my past that I'm just never going to talk about online. And you guys are never going to have those pieces of me because I've just decided that they don't belong online, you know? And so the moment you turn on a camera and the moment you start interacting in front of it, you're already selecting the pieces of yourself you want to show. And you're already self-editing. And I think some people are really, really good at making you feel like they are being 100% their authentic selves all the time. But, you know, I would say the longer a YouTuber goes, the more impossible it is for them to do that. The more they really strive to fulfill this idea of themselves, this expectation of themselves that's created between them and their audience. I've been doing this for 10 years. You know, I've been doing this for 10 years, and, like, not only do I perform, like, the version of myself that existed before YouTube is gone. Like, they don't exist anymore. Like, you know, it's that thing where, what is it, that, like, it's like 99.999% of the atoms in your body cycle out every 7 years. So you're basically being ship of Theseus the entire time you exist. It's like I physically, emotionally, mentally, everything you can imagine, this version of me only exists because of YouTube and because my life took the path it did. And I think I'm actually, like, really grateful that I kind of went through that kind of ego death and that, like, separation of, like, I am not my YouTube persona. Because when you see YouTubers getting into weird fucking scenarios and, like, fucking around with fans and just getting into situations where I think they shouldn't, I think all you're really viewing is, like, insecure people whose doubts about themselves are being filled in by their audience and them never learning that that's a bad thing. I always remember this one time that I was at a con, and I'd been doing YouTube a couple of years at this point, and this girl came up to me and she was really excited to meet me. And I remember just chatting away to her, and she was really nice, like she was cool, you know. But at some point I remember looking into her eyes, and her eyes were like fully dilated. Like, and just she had the most blissful expression on her face just listening to every tiny word I was saying. And I had this sensation that's like, I feel like this person is looking past me and into something greater. And that greater thing was this idea of me that she had built up. And that was a fucking scary moment. You know, that was like a scary realization that people could view you like that, you know? And like I've had people like ask to hug me, and then like I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll give you a hug, and I give them a hug and they start crying, you know? And it's like you realize that it's like you are so much more than you could ever conceive in the eyes of some people. And the thing I kind of took away from that experience is I would never want to believe I am whatever that girl is seeing. I'd never ever want to believe that, because to me, all I am is like I'm just a person, and I just like making videos. You know, that like someone asked me on the Discord earlier, like what my proudest achievement on YouTube is. And my proudest achievement, and I didn't even have to think about it. My proudest achievement is making things with my friends that I am proud of. That's it. That's what I like. I loved streaming with Brian so much on Wednesday. God damn, it felt so good to stream with that motherfucker again. I love Versus Wolves. I love being able to stream with Wooly. I love people being able to experience our friendship like that. You know, I loved making the wrestling video. For all the misery it brought me, I loved making it. And I don't mean I loved having it on the internet and people like it. I mean I loved slotting that fucking thing together. And I love thinking about how I would do it better if I could do it again. You know, I've been writing the Void Stranger video, and, you know, the challenge of how the fuck do you talk about that game has been some of the purest bliss I have experienced in a while. You know, and I'm so happy making it, and I dread the day I have to upload it, you know? But I'm gonna, because that's how I make my living. And I understand that there's a lot of good that comes from uploading it as well. I understand that, like, you know, there's a lot of people who take comfort in my videos, but that's all I am. Like, that's all I can provide is comfort. You know, I don't think my videos save anyone. I don't think my videos make a serious difference in anyone's lives. And I know some people say they do, but what I would say to that is, no, you made a difference in your life in a time that was difficult. My videos just gave you a little comfort in doing that. And I think that's important. You know, I think that's a big deal as well. I think providing people a little bit of relief in what has been what is often a cruel and horrifying reality that's my purpose. Like that's why I'm here. That's what I am here to do. Your videos marginally adjusted my way of talking about art, and I think that is beautiful. Tim and Space, thank you. That's fucking awesome. Like that's great to hear as well. Like if the videos like change the way you look at art a little bit, that's really cool. But I guess what I'm saying is, like, I'm really not trying to change the world with my videos. I think at this point I'm happy to provide people with a little entertainment and a little comfort. And if I'm able to make a living off that, you know, even better. So yeah, being a YouTuber is really weird. It's really, really weird, and it has brought me on a crazy emotional journey. But I'm glad I did it. And I'm glad after doing this shit for 10 years, I have still clung on to some amount of relevancy, because I know that is nearly impossible. I know there are so few YouTubers who achieve that, and I really think it's good fortune and little else that I was able to.